Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to the channel. So today we are concluding the carving portion of this scene that we've been working on for the last several videos. I'm gonna be real honest with you. I'm filming this intro after I got done filming the rest of it. This one was a doozy. Couple of mistakes I had to fix on the fly. So hopefully you guys follow along. I'm gonna put it out there anyways, and we'll see what comes of it. But stick around and let's get this part done.
I'm not quite sure how.
So after cutting this thing out on a bandsaw, this is what we end up with. The next step is going to be we need to get the inside of these runners hollowed out. And to do that, we're going to... All right, so I got this thing clamped up in this vise. I'm just going to take a pull saw, carefully get my line started here. And then next I've got this big number 2 sweep Swiss made chisel. We're just gonna blast that wood out of there. No need to be delicate here. There's a lot of cleanup yet to go. Go with a slightly smaller number 5 here because I'm putting a little pressure on those runners now with the bigger chisel. And there we go. Well, still a lot of work to go on this guy, but we got the runners on the sled started. All right, so at this point, this is where we're at with the tree and the sled. We need to start reducing this down. And if you've paid attention to the channel for a while, you will know that my favorite tool for doing that is this big 1-inch Badger State eraser. I can really, and this, a piece this big, it's a pain to get roughed in. If you don't have an eraser, you know, by all means, use the biggest rough out knife you've got. And we're just going to look to get this thing generally round. So we're knocking off big chunks here. And I'm going to try to lock in my focus there on what needs to be focused on. I know not everybody has the eraser, but I will tell you, this is one tool that if you add it to your tool bag, you will continue to find new ways to use it for dang near anything and everything. It's a total game changer for me. And I've heard from a few of you who feel the same way that after you picked one up. But I just love that I can attack this thing from pretty much any angle and really knock off big chunks here while not putting a lot of stress on my hands. That's one reason for a long time, I avoided carving bigger pieces because it was really stressful on my hands and wrist, and I don't want to sound egotistical or sound like a braggart here, but I feel like my hands are probably stronger than, you know, vast majority of people who are carving. So I know if I was struggling with tendonitis issues, golfer's elbow and whatnot, from carving these big pieces, I know many of you are probably feeling the same thing. But this tool right here, I can carve these big pieces like this without that stress, without that strain. And it just makes life so much easier. So hopefully you get the gist of what I'm doing here. I'm gonna just shut up and probably blast through this part. Probably end up fast forwarding here just so this video doesn't end up being 2 to 3 hours long, because I'd like to get this all done in one video. And when we get to the detailing portion, I'll come back and kind of explain what my mindset is. just noticed that I didn't knock that tree trunk out right there. So I'm actually going to I'm gonna pause right here, run downstairs, and just notch that out with the bandsaw right quick. I could easily, use a knife or whatever and cut it in, but I'm gonna make things easy on myself and go use the power tools to get that taken care of. So I will be right back. All right, so there we go, got that done. And I'm gonna make one note while I'm chiming in here. What I'm doing is I want basically roughly a center line down the top and down the sides. And I want to round to those points. So I want this to be high, I want that to be high, I want that to be high, and I want everything to round over to it. So with that said, I'm gonna get back to it. All right, so that's kind of where it stands right now. And as you can see, that's really rough. I was not at all delicate with anything. I just want to get that wood gone. Now we'll start kind of refining things. And one thing I want to do is just take this soft V. If you don't have a soft V, you can pretty much attain the same thing with a rough out knife. I'm just going to kind of put those notches back in all the way around, something like that. And again, I'm working on rounding things over as I go. One thing I want to do is lay this thing kind of to the side because I want to undercut this bottom side to make it look like it's tapering up into the top portion there. Trying to do my best about getting rid of these chips and stuff so that the camera doesn't focus in on them, but a project like this makes a bunch of them and it's hard to keep up. Again, hopefully you can kind of get the gist of what I'm doing here. So once again, I want to buzz through this and get on with the show. So if you have any questions, feel free to add them down in the comments. But I'm probably going to be fast forwarding through the rest of this part. All right, so that's where we've got this thing. Really and truly, you know, we're not looking for perfectly symmetrical tree or anything. And you got to figure when this thing's laying down, gravity's going to be working on the limbs. It's not going to look the same as it will when it's up in its stand. So don't get too bogged down into making all this perfect. But now I'm going to go back to the eraser and I'm going to undercut these areas some more and work on rounding it off just a bit more. You know, it's going to leave some hangnails in there I'm going to have to clean up, but that'll be fine. All right, now we got to clean all that crap out. Yep, see a spot I missed. See if this V gouge will get up in there any better. A little bit. Just cleaning out. All right, so we've got to that stage. And got a little bit more to clean out in here. But we're getting there. Now we need to kind of focus in on this sled and get that thing evened up. As you can see, my runners aren't real even. It's kind of sloppy and kind of chewed up down there. So let's break from the tree for a minute. And let's get this thing evened out. There we go. I'm gonna take an eraser. I'm just gonna peel back in fairly long strokes. And really, we're just looking to get in the ballpark here. It doesn't have to be perfect. And I want this tree to kind of hang over just a little bit, so I'm gonna undercut right along there a touch. And of course, I'm gonna need to take out some chips in these corners. Something like so. Let's do the same thing on the other side. As you can tell, that's pretty rough as well. I'll run up against the grain on that one. We got a fair bit more to go on this sled. We're gonna have to trim some more. I'm just trying to get in the ballpark here. And try not to make this video too absurdly long. One thing you could easily do if you wanted to attempt this is make the tree and the sled separate. There are pros and cons to doing it both ways. But one pro is you don't have all this funky grain direction to contend with, especially in little nooks and crannies like this. If you did that, you could just make the bottom of the tree flat. You wouldn't have to worry about carving that. And just set it down on, add you a little dowel or something through here and glue it in place and it would be there. Matter of fact, I started to do that for this project. I don't really have a good reason why I didn't. One reason is I wanted these tree limbs. I guess the only good reason I had is I wanted to be able to show these tree limbs kind of hanging over the side. And I knew it would be easier to do that using this method. But, Didn't have to go that route. Just chose to. All these angles rough on my hands. I don't know how well it shows up. I got a bad spot of eczema right on the heel of my right hand. I was banging it up against that thing. You can see there's little blood spots on there. I need to clean off. Up in here, we need to get rid of saw marks. It's not going to be easy. Just kind of take time and work my way up in there. All right, that needs to come off, or come out rather. Something like so. All right. Need to get those saw marks off as well. This is going to be one of those areas that's going to be hard to get cleaned out. But usually in a spot like that, I find if you cuss at it long enough, you can find that right angle to attack from to be able to get them loose. Just too wide for my V-gouge. Let's see. I'm going to take this little vaner and just run in there. There we go. That's more better. Now here, you know, I don't want that to be a flat 90-degree angle. I'm gonna go back to the eraser here and just kind of taper that, around it a little bit, not taper it. As you can see, I'm leaving some DNA on this project. My hands are dry. And I've been trying everything. And it's early November. It's just bad already. January, February are going to be rough for me. Gotta get rid of saw marks anywhere and everywhere you see them. Can't leave saw marks on a piece. I don't even like to leave them on the back of a Santa ornament. Okay, so now we know that tree trunk's not going to be a square, so let's round that thing off, and all we're going to do is turn a square into an octagon. Something like so. And we'll just take those corners off, and that'll probably be about good enough. And we also need to bear in mind that Santa is carrying an axe for this piece, not a chainsaw. If you wanted to make them with a chainsaw, you could leave that bottom as is, but we need to make it look like it's been filled with an axe. So something like that. All right. So I think what I'm gonna do next is add the texture to this tree. And I'm just gonna do that with a series of gouges, starting with my big V gouge, or soft V rather. It's kind of a hard angle to get at, but again, you cuss at it enough, you can make it work. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time going through that for this whole tree. Once again, we're going to buzz through this thing and move on to the next step. All right, so I've just been going through. I started off, let's get rid of some of these chips here and maybe put a tool or two away. Started off using this Sulfie, just throwing some texture in with it, and now I'm kind of cleaning up in these little tight areas with this little, I think it's a 5mm number 11 veiner. You know, whatever you got. Getting in these little tight areas, I'll be honest with you, it's kind of a pain. And but you just gotta do it. I'm not going to worry too much about, you know, carrying that texture all the way up underneath there, because there's going to be, you know, heavily shaded when I paint. So I don't think it's going to show too much. But just trying to get as much of that cleaned out as I can and get it as neat as possible. And I'm also, you know, using this thing, just throw a variety of texture in all the way around, just break up some of the conformity and uniformity and whatnot. And trying to make sure I'm not leaving any saw marks anywhere. And then I've got a little bit of texture. You know, I don't have too many dead flat areas. Not too awful concerned about having some here and there, because, you know, with the way I'm going to paint this thing, that's going to be some high areas that can catch some dry brushing. But that's basically all I'm going to do for the texture on this tree. And I'm going to let the paint help me with with the rest of it. You know, this thing's got some fairly sharp areas, and some of them, you know, might be a tad delicate. So you get to this point, you kind of want to be mindful of what you're doing. Don't bang on these too awful hard. But if you do, it's just going to add texture. You know, just kind of clean it up. And to be honest with you, I've knocked a couple off already. It's not a huge deal. Like that right there. That's going to split out on me. So let's just get rid of it. There we go. And I'm sure I'll find some more of those along the way. But that's pretty boring content to sit and watch that. So let's get this sled taken care of. And we'll about be done with this thing. All right, so all I did was kind of marked off where my runners are. And I used a Forstner bit to kind of take out some of the space in these corners, or take out some of the wood on these inside. And from here, it's just going to be a matter of cleaning this up. It does make a bit of a mess, and if you had a scroll saw or even a coping saw. I don't have a scroll saw. I do have a coping saw. I do not have a coping saw blade. Need to replace that. But I'm just going to go through and carefully get rid of all this wood on the inside. And we need to, you know, clean up the bottom of the sled as we go along and do this as well. Right here on this inside corner where this runner is. Oh, let me see. That number 3 will probably do a pretty good job there. You could do it with a knife. Just be mindful of the grain direction when you go. But that's one that's not compelling content. So I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this video doing this. I'm going to get it cleaned up. And I mean, the process is going to be the same I got 6 of these openings to do, and then the cleanup portion. The process is going to be the same on all of them. Just take my time, making sure I get rid of saw marks, but I don't back myself into a bad spot. There's really no special technique or anything to it. So I'll get this one done, and I'll probably cut the video and just repeat the process. There we go. All the way around. And as you can see, the bottom of the sled there is pretty boogered up. Like, I've got a lot of cleanup to do there. Not going to make you guys sit and suffer through that, but that's That's going to be what I'm aiming for. Clean this corner out right here. And just do this carefully. Oop. Or you'll end up doing what I did right there. So that's going to be a spot that's going to need a little bit of CA glue. But I think that's an important lesson. Mistakes happen. It's not the end of the world. And all I have to do is just open that up just a touch. You got to be careful when using CA glue. For those of you who watched Bob Hershey's presentation on the International Association of Wood Carvers this past week, he talks about it as well. A CA glue will not finish the same as wood. So, and it's going, if you use the thin stuff, it's going to wick into, especially with this being in grain. If I have overrun here, it's going to wick into the pores there, and it's just not going to finish the same as the wood does. And it might, to be honest with you, it might be something that depends on how much it shows at the end. I might leave that alone. We'll see. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But for right now, I got a boo-boo right there. You know, I could knock the rest of that runner off. Had a feeling that was going to be a sketchy spot, and it bit me. Oh well, live and learn. But that's what we're aiming for, and I'll get that done, and then we'll move on to the next part of the video. All right, so part of doing a series like this is showing you sometimes shit happens. Got a little heavy-handed, and that runner come off. And I, knew with the grain running the direction it was, I was probably flirting with disaster, and well, that's what I got. So, what do we do about it? Well, I got an idea. Hold tight, and let me work on this for a minute. All right, so we had us a major screw up, and when trying different things, sometimes that happens. And for those of you who are following along, this may be something that you want to do anyways. I have done a sled like that before, but it's kind of sketchy. This is going to be much easier. So all I did was cut the runners off, and then I so this was some 1-inch stock that I had, these runners. I cut them out, fairly beefy. I'm going to go back and clean that up a little bit, and then split them down the middle. And then I took a 1/4-inch Forstner bit and put holes on the runners themselves. I just drilled all the way through, because who cares? That's going to be sitting on the base. Nobody's going to notice. And then up here on the sled, put some corresponding holes. I actually dabbed the ends of the dowels. I didn't have anything handy except some acrylic paint down there, so I dabbed the end of the dowels in those and made myself some reference marks. And it's snug. I may actually go back and open up those holes just a bit. And I'm going to do, once I get all this cleaned up and finalized, I'm just going to go back and add a bit of Tight Bond wood glue, or maybe some CA glue, either or works, and glue those in place. But that's what we ended up with. They're not plumb straight, but good enough, I believe. Need to even things up a little bit. Something's not sitting right. I think that one's not. That's why that was not going in the hole. But that's that for now. The next thing I'm going to do is I've got an axe here for him. If you want the pattern for this, let me know. I'll trace this out. I just kind of roughly estimated, you know, something going up, axe handle going up about to his waist. And then I want to draw a center line here on the axe head. And I want to take that head down to that center line on either side. I want, you know, I want this to somewhat look like an actual axe head, so I'm trying to make these bevels even and flat-ish. Do the same thing on this side, and that head's, you know, it's a little chunky. So I'll actually go back and trim that head down just a little bit on either side. See what we end up with there. Let's get this bevel here carved out. We're gonna aim for that center line. And as always, you know, we want to get rid of our saw marks. Well, let's get the let's get this head thinned down just a bit on this side. This video, I've had to break this up so many times. I'm not sure how long we're running now. I may split this up into 2 videos just to make it a little more manageable. We will see. And now all I'm gonna do is just split that axe, figure out, you know, kind of where it's gonna go in his hand. And I'm gonna split that handle in 2. I'll do that with the bandsaw. And we insert it from either side and glue it up, and it'll be there. But let's look at the next step now. So this is another 1-inch thick piece of basswood, and this is all I'm going to use for the base on this piece. If I were entering this in a competition, I wouldn't go with just this. I would try to present a lot nicer base. I don't have any competitions coming up. So what I'll end up doing is I'll show you what I'm going to do here. First and foremost, I'm going to go back to my trusty eraser, and I'm going to chamfer these edges down. Get rid of those hard edges. We got a bit of an odd shape, but just be mindful of the way that grain's running. You can kind of peck away at it. Get rid of all that. And I want to take this, you know, I don't, just like on a carving, I don't want any saw marks, so I want to take this all the way down to the bottom. And this is going to be another one of those points where we're just going to be a lot of carving here without really anything of interest. So I'm going to buzz through this, fast forward through this part, and I'll catch back up with you in just a minute. All right, I think you kind of get the point of what I'm looking to do there. I'm wanting to just chamfer everything over, get rid of hard edges. I've got a lot of cleanup work here yet to do. The process is going to look exactly like what I was just showing you, though. Nothing of real importance or really anything to note there. It's just kind of rounding all this over. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my big, this is a 5/8 number 9, and I'm just going to put a little texture in it. Basically what I'm trying to emulate here is just, drifting snow. And of course, you can use whatever you got. Number 9 works good. You can come back with a different kind of gouge so you don't make things completely uniform. So this is a number 5 here. And basically it's just like carving hair or a beard. You just kind of want to make lazy ass curves until you get a little bit of texture, and carry that all the way out to the edge. And then once we paint this thing, of course I'll show you when we get there in that video, but we can do different layering techniques to get some highlights and whatnot, and low lights in here, and make it a little bit more interesting than just a plain block of wood. And that is more or less going to be it. So let me reposition my phone here. Maybe I'll cut that out. Maybe I'll leave it in. Who knows? Big old magnetic thing. All right. So that's what it's going to look like. We'll have him pulling the sled, axe in hand, and that's the nuts and bolts of it. So for those of you who stuck around this long, I certainly appreciate your time. This video has probably been the hardest one of this series for me to do. Hopefully I was able to translate some new information to you. As always, leave me a comment. Let me know what you like, what you dislike. The only way I'm going to improve is to take some criticism, and I'm not afraid to do that. So fire away. Let me know where I suck so that I can improve. So as always, like, comment, share if you feel obliged. It's greatly appreciated, and we'll see you next time. Bye.